All right, so I'm back. I couldn't let my twin brother run that whole proceeding into the ground. So we were talking about Washington, or he was talking about Washington and Michigan. Earlier, I had said that Washington could only get the number one or the number two seed. Well, it turns out that since uh, Florida State in the next game, they took on LSU for the division winner of Team Nike. Turns out that Florida State put a whooping on Syracuse. They won 45-14, and LSU just straight up lost their game to Florida. They lost, I think it was 16-10. So by virtue of that game, which was kind of unexpected to me, I thought LSU would actually kind of handle that. Florida State was kind of like, what do you call that? I forget what you actually call it, but they just had a weak record. I mean, they had a weak strength of schedule. They beat Missouri twice, so there you go. Missouri's out of the league. Florida State actually moved on to 7-3, won the division, and LSU's out of the playoffs, or out of the playoff. So that being said, Florida State 7-3, Michigan 7-3, Washington 7-3. All three of them made my 12th Warrior playoff. However, Florida State, I went ahead and gave the number 2 seed to, and Washington the number 3. So I mean, it doesn't really matter one way or the other. It's not like they actually have a real home game in front of their fans. So that being a moot point, it just wanted to make a correction there. In the last game that would determine who moves on to the 12th Warrior playoff, you had the Chiefs, and you also had the Rams. Now, in that game, the Rams were playing the Dolphins. In the late game on Sunday, the Chiefs were playing the Bucks. The Chiefs, much to the dismay of myself and many people on Facebook, lost that game to Tampa, which they had no business losing. They have been, like, I remember last week they had a bunch of field goals and they squeaked out a win. But, this week, how do you lose to Tampa Bay and expect to be taken seriously? I won't get into my commentary on that, but I still think the Chiefs have a good shot at going, running the table, winning the West, and making an appearance in Super Bowl 51. Whether they win or not, I mean, I would be happy if they got there. But that said, if they got there, they better win it. So in this game, Chiefs fans, I got some good news for you. The Chiefs lost to the Bucks by 2 points. The Rams lost to the Dolphins by 4 points. So in my league, if both teams lose, the winner of that game goes to the team that came the closest, that had the closest game. And there you go. The Chiefs move on. The Chiefs advance to the 12th Warrior playoff. Now, according to the seeding, you have number 1 Michigan playing the number 4 Kansas City Chiefs. And you have the number 2 Florida State Seminoles playing the number 3 Washington Huskies. You have 3 division winners there, and then you have the Huskies, which get the nod over this next game. You had New Orleans challenging Tennessee in their division for the division winner of Team Reebok. New Orleans lost and Tennessee lost. And both of their records weren't even close to the record that Washington had. So even by virtue of Washington losing their division, they get the at-large berth. And that's no favoritism here. I pretty much mentioned that's the way it was going to go down, that Washington and Michigan going into this week were already a lock to make those 12th Warrior playoff. So the winner of the New Orleans-Tennessee game, it was just a matter of bragging rights and going into next year saying, hey, well, we're division winners. New Orleans lost to the Panthers Thursday night 23-20. Tennessee lost to the Colts 24-17. So the Colts beat them by 7, and the Panthers beat New Orleans by 3. So the Saints are the winners. Congratulations, you are, and I'm sure Bobby Boucher and my twin are pretty happy about that over there in Cajun country. So Not only that, but both of those teams are safe to make my league next year. The teams that were on the bubble to make the league, uh, we already knew about Missouri, but they had a knockout game against the Jags. Now, if Missouri was able to beat Tennessee in real life, and then the Jags lost their game to Detroit, the Missouri Tigers could have eliminated Jacksonville from the 12th Warrior League. Well, it turns out, as expected, Missouri lost. You know, I'm sure that's not a shock to many people. They lost to Tennessee. I think it was 63 to 37. My notes say a margin of 26 points. The Jaguars, they lost to Detroit as well. They lost by 7 points. So by virtue of the point differential, the Jaguars win that game. You know, consolation prize, I guess. And then you also had the Bruins versus the Seahawks. Now, neither the Bruins or the Seahawks had really anything at stake in this game here, other than the winner got immunity. So that meant that the winner was not going to be booted from the league. You had Seahawks playing Philly, which they won their game, and the Bruins lost pretty handily to USC. So the Bruins lost that game, and therefore they are out of the 12th Warrior League. So you have Missouri's out, UCLA's out, and then it came down to basically needing to boot one more team. Well, when I looked at it, I told myself, I don't want to boot a team that was in a divisional championship game. So it came down to Tennessee, New Orleans, and the Jaguars. And unfortunately, even though you escaped the knockout from Missouri, guess who's knocking you out? Boom. I'm knocking you out. You're out. You're out of my league. So that leaves two NCAA teams that need to be replaced. Arizona State's filling in for Missouri next year. And then you have a replacement team for the Jaguars. I have already made a decision. My decision is final, and that decision as a replacement for the Jaguars is none other than my first personalized jersey, the Philadelphia Eagles. So we'll see how Carson Wentz does next year. We'll get a closer look at them, and we'll be following their games a little bit more. And then the other team that's going to take over in the NCAA will be, you guessed it, the USC Trojans. Now, this is kind of me pulling a Trump, where he reached out to Mitt Romney after they had their little spar in the preseason, as it were. And it's by me basically saying, hey, you beat my favorite team, the Huskies. And then you went ahead and knocked off the Bruins in the crosstown rivalry. So I'm going to give you some play. I'm going to invite you into my league, and we'll see how you do. So in the NCAA West now, not North, but the West, you'll have Washington, you'll have USC, and you'll have Arizona State. And then in the NCAA East, you'll have Florida State, Michigan, and wait for it, LSU. LSU's coming back. So that leaves the NFL North, which will consist of the Seahawks, which made it through, the Rams, and the Eagles. Seahawks, Rams, and Eagles. And then in the NFL South, you're going to have the Chiefs, the Saints, and the Titans. So that's what it's going to look like next year. I believe I covered all the games that transpired over the weekend. And then in this next video, we'll go ahead and look forward to the 12th Warrior playoff, those matchups, who those teams are playing in real life, and I will give you that drink recipe that my twin was going to give you. All right, see you soon.